Hey everybody, Vaughn here with the Vonster vlog, and welcome to day 65 of a year of yoga. Just getting my mat straightened out. Oh, thank you guys so much for joining me here today on our mats. Probably one of my favorite parts of the daily grind, but I'm convinced it's the daily grind that shapes us into who we will become. And if we don't take an active role in that, then who will we be? you know? So I just have my fingers interlocked behind me. You can, in the past, I've had them pressed against like the base of my spine, like kind of that flat spot right above my tailbone. But today I'm actually going to experiment with really trying to straighten my arms. And while I straighten my arms, I'm not just, making it like my hands are being pulled down to the ground behind me, but I'm inhaling and lifting up with my chest as well. And this is really giving me a stretch all through across my chest and down the top of like my deltoids, even into my biceps a bit. So keeping those fingers interlaced and sending them down towards the ground. Inhale and exhale. And for this one, it's kind of the opposite. Usually I exhale into the stretch, but I'm inhaling to really add some depth and challenge to that stretch. So let's release our fingers. Inhale up overhead. Exhale down. Getting a nice bend in our knees as we just kind of flow through this. Come up onto our toes. And down to bent knees. Feet flat on the floor. Inhale up. Exhaling, pulsing through down. And let's do a bit of tree pose. I'm actually going to come off of my mat. Hey, Callie. My cat, Callie, one of my cats, is directing today. She's sitting next to the camera judging me. So we will send our roots down through our right foot. Let's actually try, instead of coming into tree pose, let's just lift that left knee, maybe make some circles with our ankles. And change directions, just trying to make as big of a circle, leading with my big toe as what I can. So it's 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll come back down. Send our roots down through our left foot, peeling up our right foot off the ground. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 before we change directions. 1, ooh, wobbly. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Back down. Sorry, I feel like I'm trying to teach my cat how to do yoga, and she's just looking at me like, yeah, okay. So I'm going to step forward onto my mat now with a nice wide stance, and I want my knees to travel down over my feet as we do this. So we're going to inhale up and exhale, really coming down into a nice deep squat. We can lean forward and press our hands into our thighs, right above where it joins to our knee. Hey, baby girl. You want to do some yoga? Yeah, I love you. Really stretching down and in. And then we can actually come up onto our toes. Oh, maybe just for a moment. But that's okay. Raising up and down. Inhale. Exhale down. Woo. It's okay if you tip. One more. There we go. That was an automobile and not my colon. I promise. I don't even know if the mic picked up on that, but there was just the most putt-puttinest motorcycle. It's fun. Anyways, so Adding in that same pulse with our breathing as we come up, and then exhale down. I'm going to bring my feet in just a little bit. Inhale up onto our toes. Ooh, what do I want? I think I want to exhale up. So exhaling up into just a star, like we're radiating out through our fingertips. Inhaling deep into the squat, making sure we are bending our knees over our feet. Exhaling up and onto our toes. Lift, lift, lift. Oh, there we go. So now from here, let's inhale up and fold forward, swan diving down, leading with our collarbones to the mat, into a forward fold. And I'm just going to shift my weight from side to side and from front to back. And as we lean forward, I'm going to raise my heels up, and as we lean back, I'm going to lift those toes. I personally have a tendency when I lift my toes that my big toes come up first. I don't want to put that twist in my ankles, so even if our feet don't come up as high, just lifting. I'm actually going to grab some blocks so I can really focus on my form here. So just use some blocks to bring your hands up, the ground up to your hands, and lifting your heels, and then lifting the fronts of your feet, just your toes, the ball of your foot off the ground. There we are. Now from here, let's walk our hands down the mat into our first downward facing dog of the day. Really just pulling and pushing our breath. Being very actively participating in something that we do subconsciously throughout the day. Lowering down into plank for a few breaths. Before we lower our knees, but don't bring them to the ground yet. Still just floating, and then we come down. And let's sit back. I'm actually going to sit back, my feet, just tops of my feet on the ground. And take a moment to just feel my heart beating, pulsing through my whole body. And as we listen to that drum beat of our heart, let's visualize fresh, powerful blood just pumping through to the tips of our fingers, the tips of our toes. That through our breath and through our movement and through our heightened heart rate, we're just charging all of it. So we're like a battery, fully charged, just electrified, down into our most trivial of extremities, like even in your toenails, like feel just completely illuminated. Now, if our heart rate has slowed, we will come back down to tabletop. And we're going to practice just a few cat-cows here before making them more complicated. So inhale, exhale, tucking our tailbone under, relaxing our head and neck towards the ground, curving our spine, opening our shoulder blades to the sky. Inhale, scooping up and through with an anterior tilt of our pelvis to bring that tailbone towards the sky, lifting the top of our head, almost like we're trying to make our chin point at the sky. Exhaling through, Really as though we're pushing the ground away from us. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And now we can do the same thing. I'm going to shift my left knee towards a little bit more centered up under my spine. I'm going to extend my right leg, toes pointed just out to the side. I'm going to do a few rotations of cat-cow here. And come up. Exhaling. Now let's do 5 lifts, just lifting our foot off the ground, levering from our hip, supporting. I'm pushing through both of my hands evenly, my knee and my left foot. Inhale, and 1, 2, 3, going nice and slow, 4, and 5, and bringing that knee back in. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, extending my left leg out. Inhale, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Sit back onto my feet with my toes curled under for just a moment. Getting a little bit of a stretch through our foot. It's more important that we do 5 with good form, juicing that orange for just every drop that it's worth, than if we were to do 20 with shoddy form and just like flopping and using momentum and stuff. So it's not about quantity here. It's definitely about quantity. Okay. Coming back down, easing off of my feet. I've been trying to build up my flexibility in my feet. So while I had the toes curled under, I'm now going to curl them so that whenever I lean back, I'm on the tops of my toes, stretching through the top of my feet. You want to come up, and you may just do 1 foot at a time. If this is very tight and uncomfortable for you, you may actually keep your fingertips on the ground just as you shift your weight back. Hey, little cat. There we are. And now bringing my hands back forward, bringing that left knee under my kind of spinal center. Inhaling, and we're going to exhale, lifting, doing fire hydrant, just lifting with a bent knee this time. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now shifting to the other side. Inhale, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now from here, I'm just going to bring my hands forward a bit, curl my toes under, inhale, and exhale into downward facing dog. Then come down into plank for just a moment before we slowly lower our body to the ground. And then pull up with our back muscles first before supporting with our arms into cobra. Lowering back down, I'm going to bring my toes together, my knees nice and wide. And I'm going to push back. And I'm going to continue pushing until I've come up. My toes are a little bit apart, but my heels are touching. And I'm actually going to just place my arms in front of me, balanced. I'm going to come forward just a bit. There we go. That way I've got room to fall backwards if that is a thing. So from here, I'm going to place my hands under my shoulders and start to lean forward just to let my knees touch my elbows. And that was one. And I'm putting increasingly more weight into my upper body. 2. Inhaling. 3. 4. And 5. Coming down onto my knees, crossing my ankles, and shifting back to a seated posture. Now, I'm doing that in a very gentle preparation. I say gentle, but that was challenging. Like, my arms are shaking. But I don't want to just throw myself into crow. I'd like to, build up into it kind of slowly and gradually. Every time my heart pounds like this, I try to still my breath, like just calm the tides of everything that's happening internally. And with every breath, I treat it like it's got that bioluminescent, is it algae or shrimp? I don't know. But it's like the edge of the water that's just lapping the shores of who I am is just glowing. And that every time I breathe, I'm bringing that glow into myself and just letting it permeate. Saying hello to our feet. Kind of doing a little bit of sensation play, even, especially if you have like circulation troubles. I like to use my fingernails and just kind of poke the bottom of my feet. Kind of the concept, if y'all have seen on Instagram, like the prana mat, how it like kind of just pokes you. And I'm not doing any damage to it doesn't hurt. It's a little pokey. But I just like to get everything stimulated down in my feet. Give them a clap. Like, yeah. When was the last time you clapped your feet? Like, unless, I don't know, we might have done that last month. But anyways, it's fun. And it's a great way to, just like how clapping your hands can make your hands feel all tingly and energized. If you take and clap your feet, I usually have to do it with like how your feet like curves fit together, because that way it'll actually, anyways, but yeah, I don't know, I have no idea about any science behind it, but it makes me happy, and that's cool. So from here, let's start making some circles with our upper body, starting small at first and then building up. And if you want, you can keep visualizing that illuminated ocean, just waves, and then change directions. I always feel like I'm neglecting this back corner, so pay extra attention to any areas that you think you might be glossing over. Very cool. Now I'm going to put my feet at a wide stance. And I'm just going to start rocking side to side. My inner thighs are so tight. Like, they're like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, it's okay. We're just doing some yogurt. And they're like, oh, okay. Why are you doing that? So by breathing and moving gently, we can have a little bit of a conversation with our bodies to let them know that it's okay that we're doing this. Because especially if you've like pulled a muscle or something, sometimes that part of your body can overreact to sensation, like, whoa, no, we're not stretching like that. Because even though, it's just worried, your body's just worried about that same injury happening again. So let's go nice and slow and gentle and show it that no, this is okay. Like most trauma, it takes like, what is it they say, like 10 good things to offset one bad thing. Like mentally, like, it takes 10 compliments to offset one negative, statement or something. I don't know, probably read that on like an Instagram quote or something. But I kind of feel like the same, it takes, 10 times as much gentle encouragement to offset one just like painful experience. So, and that's a very broad brush and gross understatement, I'm sure. So, I'm not a doctor, but trying to learn. So, just shifting from side to side. I like the added sensation of just rubbing my hands down my calf and top of my foot. Because again, the more sensations that I can add, the more it takes my mental focus off of my nervous inner thighs that are like, I'm not sure about this stretch. And from here, we can start extending out, extending as we fold to the side, coming up and reaching over. Maybe do a little hand flourish when we get to the top, just for the fun of it. One way and then the other. It's just stuff to occupy the monkey chatter of my mind, to keep me from being like, whoop, made it to the posture, time for the next one. It's like, no, let's spend a moment and dance there. So just bringing the palms of my feet together, or the soles of my feet together, holding on to my ankles. I'm going to roll my neck from one side to the other, or my head rather. And as I lean my right ear over my right shoulder, I'm going to look down towards the ground. Inhale and exhale, looking up towards the sky. Inhaling down. Then rolling my ear over to the other shoulder. Inhaling, looking down. And exhaling, looking up. One more. There we go. Well, we did it, guys. Another day of yoga in the books. Thank you all so much for joining me here. I love hearing from you down in the comments, but you know that by now. Unless you're just popping in and for some reason started at day 64 of a year of yoga, in which case, hello. Introduce yourself down below in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. I want to know, what kind of history do y'all have with yoga? Like, had you ever practiced? Did you ever take any classes? Or you just watching videos? Like, let me know what's up. I'd love to know your journey. About me, my very first experience with anything even yoga-esque was like in fifth grade. I had I had gained a significant amount of weight, and like my dad was worried for me because his health problems had stemmed from his out of control blood sugar and stuff a lot. So he had gotten me on my request some 5-pound dumbbells and a Denise Austin Pilates for Everybody VHS. And it was challenging, but I would do it. It was always very challenging for me to get through the full hour, but I found out that I absolutely love the sensation of stretching and I love lifting weights. And that was kind of where I had plateaued until after my dad passed away and I moved to Texas. And I had made a friend who was in band. We were both in band, and her mom bought me a book that I was looking at in the half price books, just shopping. Like, she got it for me as a gift, and uh, that was awesome. Like, and I started practicing out of that book, and then I think I bought another one from the same half price books, which is like my favorite bookstore back then. And I just remember it gave me a very tiny sense of control in my life, that this is something that I'm choosing to do, that is for me, because I felt like it was complicated at the time. Because first off, being a teenager is just kind of a crapshoot anyways. Like, just learning how to, 1 minute you're just a regular human being, and the next minute you're like just a meat suit full of hormones and rage. And so so that was complicated, but I was we'll probably go into that another day. But yoga was a solace for me, and I've tried to maintain some sort of practice, gosh, for 20 years almost at this point. I've only gotten to take a couple of classes. A lot of it's been just following YouTube videos or out of books or VHSs or DVDs. I'm actually really interested in Kundalini yoga, which I think is just amazing. My friend Christina, who's probably one of my longest time friends at this point, had actually given me a VHS of Kundalini yoga, and that was just so much fun. And they did this thing where like they weren't like this, which I actually really miss doing. But you just kind of, I really loved how dynamic Kundalini yoga is. So I think, my roots are in, like, my first DVD was a hatha yoga, but it was the longest, most boring yoga I've ever done in my entire life. And I wouldn't recommend it. And it was like yoga for weight loss, which like somehow also made it more miserable, because just the whole time I was just like, ugh, sad about how fat I am. Like, kind of, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like how I want yoga to feel. So I really liked the Kundalini yoga, because it wasn't about burning calories. It was about just energizing and celebrating being alive. And that is what I feel like I want yoga to feel like for me. So I also really like yin yoga too, though, which is like really long, static, passive stretches, just really relaxing into it and stuff. And also aerial yoga. So there's this whole yoga world that I feel like even after all this time, I've barely scratched the surface in. And I, just talking about it gets me excited all over again about studying and learning. And I'd love to, hopefully after the holiday season, I'd like to start going and taking maybe one yoga class a week at the YMCA, and kind of see about, because all the local yoga studios, like within like a 20 or 30-minute drive, closed during the Rona. So I think that's the only place in town to take classes. But it's like $8 a class, and I think I can do that once a week. But we'll see. I'm so nervous about like farting or something in a public yoga class, or just like, I don't know, like, interacting with other humans. Like, I hate inflicting myself on people, so I'll just bring my mat and sit in the back of the class, I think, and see what I can learn and do. I hope I can keep up. Uh, but yeah, so we'll see. And then maybe one day I might take a yoga teacher training. Um, but that's probably a ways off. But one day at a time, we'll get there. Uh, Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Um, I'll see y'all next time. So until then, have an awesome rest of your day, and keep on keeping on. Mwah. Bye. I always forget that I have to get up and come turn off the camera. Okay, now, but actually, you want to see some yoga? There's some yoga. Just foot up in the air. Hey, Callie. Okay, bye, everybody.